Number 1. The most stable measure of central tendency. Letter A, mean. Letter B, median. Letter C, mode. And letter D, range. The answer is A, mean. The mean or average is the most popular and well-known measure of central tendency. It can be used with both discrete and continuous data, although its use is most often with continuous data. The mean is equal to the sum of all the values in the dataset divided by the number of values in the dataset. Number 2. A measure of central tendency that is sensitive to extreme values. Letter A, mean. Letter B, median. Letter C, mode. And letter D, range. The answer is B, median. The median, an extreme score, will skew the value to one side or the other. There are three main measures of central tendency: mean, median, and mode. The median is the value at the middle of a distribution of data when those data are organized from lowest to the highest value. It is the ratio of the mean to the median that is most commonly used to identify any skew in the data. Number 3. It is calculated by adding all values, then dividing the sum by the number of values. Letter A, mean. Letter B, rough median. Letter C, mode. And letter D, counting median. The answer is A, mean. The mean or average or arithmetic mean is the most popular and most well-known measure of central tendency. The mean is equal to the sum of all the values in the data set divided by the number of values in the data set.
Good afternoon, guys, and good afternoon, sir. May sasagutan tayo mga question for today for chapter 3. And here we go. Ang napuntang question sa akin is, what is the most stable measure of variability? So, ito yung mga pagpipilian. A is average dimension. B is range. C is quartile invention, or D, standard invention. So, ayon sa akin na research, nandito yung link. Ayon sa akin na research, ang pinaka magandang or stable na measure of variability is yung standard invention. So, ito yung konting description about this. So, we have discussed three measures of variability, namely range, quarterly invention, and average invention. We also found that all of them suffer from a serious drawback. The range just taken into account only the highest score and the lowest score. The quarterly interventions take into account only middle 50% of score. And in case of average intervention, we ignore the sign of all those interventions. Therefore, in order to overcome all those difficulties, we use another measure of distribution called the standard. Ito yung sinasabi ko, the standard deviation. So, kala natin yung tatlo na yon or yung apat na yun lang yung mga pwedeng gamitin or pinaka-standard. Pero hindi pala. meron pang isa. Ito yung tinatawag nilang standard invention. So, standard invention is commonly used in experimental research as it is the most stable. So, di pala inaalam ito yung stable din pala na index of variability. Symbolically, it is wrote as Greek small letter sigma. So, definition about standard invention. So, ayon sa Collins Dictionary of Statistics, standard invention means measure of spread or depressions. It is root means squared the invention. So, ayon sa Dictionary of Education or Civic Goods, a widely used measure of variability consisting of the square root of the mean of the square. The invention of scores from the means of distribution. Standard invention is the square root of the average value of the square. The inventions of the score from their arithmetical means. So, kaya naging most stable. Baga parang ito yung pinakamadali na pwedeng gamitin sa pag-compute ng mga average or score. So, the CD is computed by summing the square divisions of each measure from the means divided by the number of cases and extracting the square root to be more clear. So we should note here that in computing the CD or the standard inventions, we square all the inventions separately, find their sum. So divide the sum by the total number of scores and then find the square root of the means of the squared the invention. So that is also called the root means squared invention. So parang tinutukoy niya dito na hahanapin mo lang yung square root sa kukumputin mong score. Kaya kung baga sa square, kukumputin mo lang yung higher score sa lower score, divide. Example, divide 2 para makuha mo yung root or square root ng kinukompute mong mga scores or grades, ganon. So, papakita ko sa inyo mamaya yung mga example ng standard equation ay standard invention. So next question. Question number 5. So question number 5, it is used with the median to classify class into 4 groups. So may pagpipilian na naman tayo dito. So number A is average invention, B, range. C, quarter-lane invention, or D, standard invention. Pipiliin ko sana dito yung average, but hindi naman siya ganun ka malapit dun sa sinasabi. So, pinili ko na lang dito is yung range. So, parehas lang to nung ni-research ko kasi nandun na lahat. So, the range. So, range is the difference between in a series. It is the most general measure of square. Parehas lang siya dun. Parang may kamukha siya dun sa standard. Tsaka average. Pero ito yung malapit dun sa question. So, spread or scatter. It is a measure of viability of the varieties or observation among themselves, and those not given an idea about the spread of the observations around some central value. So, mamaya papakita ko sa inyo yung example. So, range, if the range is higher than the group, indicates more heterogeneity, and if the range is lower than the group, indicates more homogeneity. So, thus range provides US and instant and rote indications of the viability of distribution. So, sabi, tinutukoy niya dito mas mataas pa sa grupo na yon is more than higher it means heterogeneity. So, kung mas mababa naman more than sa grupo, it calls homogeneity. So, yun yung tinutukoy ng range sa group of people or group of the community or society or school, class, ganun. So, ito yung merits of range. Number one is range is easily calculated and readily understood. So, number two, it is simplest measured of variability. So, ito yung parang madali siyang computein. Wala kang kinukuhang root. Basta kung ano yung mataas, higher and lower, and then parang minus lang siya. So, mamaya ipapakita ko sa inyo yung example computing niya. So, advertisement. So, 3, it provides quickly estimates of the measure of viability. So, itong range na to, tinutukoy niya yung estimate ng group of classroom. Kumbaga may absent o wala, minus. Ganun lang siya kadali. So, the merit of range. So, number one is range is greatly affected by fluctuations of scores. So, yung demerits na is mas nakaka-affected sa mga score ng mga bata or nasa classroom. Kasi more, sabi nga niya, di ba, more abscess, more possible na babagsak ka. Ganon. So, number 2, it is not based on all the observations of the series. It is only takes the highest and the lowest score into account. So, number 3, in case of open-ended distribution, range cannot be used. No. So number 4, it is affected greatly by functions in simpling. So advertisement. Number 5, it is affected greatly by extreme score. 6, the series is not truly responded by range symmetrical and symmetrical distribution may have same range but not the same distribution. No, pwede silang magkaparehas pero pagdating sa pagbibigay or example, pagbibigay ng grade or pagbibigay ng score, hindi sila pwedeng magkaparehas. It's not the same. Use of range. Number 1 is range is used as a measure of distribution when variation is the value of the variable are not much. So number 2, range is the best measures of variability when the data are too scattered or too scarred. So ito nga magandang ginagamit ang range. Dito mo malalaman kung masipag yung bata ang pumasok, masipag yung bata, matyaga, or kahit papano pumapasa sa mga quizzes. Ito yung kinagandahan sa range. Kasi sabi nga niya, more na pumapasok ka, more possible na pumapasa ka kahit na hindi ka gaano pumapasa sa mga quiz. Parang ganun yung range. No? So number 3, range is used when the knowledge of extreme score or total spread is wanted. So advertisement. Number 4, when a quickly estimate of viability is wanted, range is used. So
for number 1, my answer is letter B. The students do an actual demonstrations of their skills because when Miss Dodna is doing a performance based on a alternative assessments, the students are expected to do an actual demonstrations on their skills. When we say demonstrations kasi, this is a design to encourage students to think critically and solve challenging problems and develop important skills. Number 2 naman, my answer is letter A. It allows for students choice accounts varied styles, activities, and interests. This is not alternative assessment. When we say alternative assessments, also referred to as a performance test or authentic assessments, are used to determine what the student can do and cannot do, in contrast to what they do or do not know. Bali hindi siya kasama dun sa alternative assessment kasi students are not allowed to choose or to choose an alternative assessment. It's only the teachers can do an alternative assessment to based on their performance or the other assessments that the student can determine their skills or their knowledge. Number 3, my answer is letter B. It's a portfolio. A non-traditional assessment tool is any type of assessments in which your students create response to a questions or task. Bali yung portfolio, because portfolio is a collection of student works that are associated with the standards you are required to learn. And bali portfolio is enable to student to reflect their real performance, to show their weak or a strong domain, to and to observe students' progress during the learning process and encourage students to take responsibilities for their own learning. Bali, it's a portfolio in the non-traditional assessment tools.
Best answer for this question is letter A. Since we are doing with performance test, it is expected that the student will perform an absolute performance. Creativity of the performance will be up the student but can't provide such options. The answer to this number is also letter A. In the situation, we can let our student meet their full potential in doing the task to a certain time frame to maximize their time and done a better assessment.
Stay with me 真夜中のドアを叩き